Hello, everyone. And today, in the first of our case study companion videos for 2021, I'm joined today by Esther Gonza. Esther, good afternoon. And can you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Alan, for inviting me to be part of this recording, which you've already alluded to that it's the first of AXELOS recordings for this year. I am really delighted to participate. So regarding introduction, my name is Esther Gonza. I'm a civil engineer by profession and also a program and project management expert. I have 12 years of experience in program and project management work, basically entailing quality management, risk and issue management, change management, benefit realization, and regarding the various AXELOS portfolio or products, I'm also a Prince2 practitioner and a trainer at the same time. Currently, I am consulting at Bank of Uganda, supporting the project management office, championing the project management practice across all projects in the bank. And previously, I've also worked in the same role as head of the program management office at the United Nations Office for Project Services in South Sudan, Juba, at the country office, but also I have trained and offered consultancy to a number of organizations, not limited to the following: Talo Oil Uganda, Uganda Electricity Transmission Company, Tanzania Airports Authority, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, and a number of public classes. So when it comes to this subject matter of projects, program management, I have robust knowledge. I am very deep and solid in the subject. I understand applicability of Prince2 and the running of program management offices. So that's a little bit about my background. Alan, over to you.
Thanks, Esther. Thank you for an excellent introduction. Regarding the case study we're going to talk about today, can you tell me what was involved in the case study itself, please?
Thank you very much, Alan. Regarding, this is just a case study about the journey the Bank of Uganda has taken in adopting and implementing Prince2. Yeah, Bank of Uganda adopted Prince2 in 2014 because originally there was no streamlined project management methodology that was being used. So you would find that most business units were using, their choice of project management methodology, and others did not have any at all. So it was important to speak the same language by adopting the Prince2 project management methodology as the de facto for management of projects in the bank. So that is what the case study is talking about, or what this recording is going to focus on: the journey the bank has taken in adopting and implementing Prince2 project management as its de facto method for managing projects. So that's about the introduction.
Thanks for that, Esther. So what were the aims and objectives that the bank had since they wanted to streamline the project management method?
Yeah, of course, I'll look at this in two folds. Let me look at the short-term goals, the quick wins, and of course, then the long-term, looking at a longer horizon. So for the short-term, once they identified the problem, they were basically looking at how can we establish a project management office, the PMO. So short-term goals was establishment of a project management office to support the business units in managing projects using Prince2. And then the second one was to embark on training, because it was important that if you're saying you're going the Prince2 way, people need to understand, people have to be equipped with the knowledge. So training was also immediate. So those were the short-term goals. Then long-term goals, they were looking at developing and ensuring project management guidelines that are implemented throughout the bank and adhered to, providing and maintaining project management tools and best practice reference points, facilitating the project management teams in adopting Prince2. Then, of course, and all these would ideally be done by the PMO. Summarizing lessons, there is what we call knowledge management, because Prince2 itself has one of those principles where you learn from experience. Lessons have to be learned so that there is continuous improvement in the organization. So the PMO had to ensure that it ensures that lessons are being picked, learned, and also shared with the various project managers. Then, of course, providing help to incorporate the change management activities, coordinating post-project implementation reviews. And another key objective was to ensure that the entire bank has what we call a central repository for all closed projects, to ensure that in case of an audit, you have a one-stop center where you go and check in the various files to pick information about what the projects delivered and what the challenges were. So the PMO was supposed to provide that, so that central management, central filing system had to be also established. Then providing historical reference for future projects and audit processes. That goes hand in hand with having a closed file central repository for the closed projects. So ideally, those were the aims and objectives for the journey.
Thanks for that, Esther. You mentioned a few times the PMO. How important was the PMO in the case study and the work at the bank?
Yeah, that PMO was very important because it was being looked at as the unit that is going to facilitate and ensure that the adopted methodology is adhered to. Because it is one thing to adopt a methodology and another to have it embedded and actually being used. So the PMO was looked at as the nerve center, the nerve center for this process of Prince2 implementation and embedding. So the PMO that was adopted was a facilitating model that provides technical support to business units with management of bank projects. So with facilitating models, you're basically providing support, and you leave the actual management of the projects to the various business units. So that's how the PMO started, because the business units are many and you don't want to have a working PMO. First, it was a facilitating one, and that is what we adopted. And the PMO basically is involved in planning, monitoring, advising, and supporting all projects across the bank. And basically that's how it's running, working with the various business units, with the various project management teams that are scattered throughout the various project, through the various departments in the bank.
Thanks for that. That's excellent. Thank you very much. So what types of stages were involved in the case study itself?
Yeah, so the case study, basically is an overview of how the PMO has done its work so far. So the PMO has institutionalized stages in 4 bits. So we have what we call the project selection and prioritization stage. Now, this is aimed to ensure that the bank only takes on projects that it can manage, because when you open up and say that this financial year, the business units, can you bring up the projects that you would like us to implement in the next year? It is natural that every department will come up with all forms of projects, but you know that we cannot have enough resources in terms of financial resources and human resources enough or available. So there has to be a criteria that we use to select these projects. so that we are able to prioritize and leverage from the resources we have in terms of human resource and also finances. So a few projects are rolled out. So basically, we are able to take on projects just enough, just what we can chew, than being overwhelmed by so many projects and you can't even monitor them very effectively. So the purpose of this and prioritization stage is it's like to sieve which projects we should pick up. So in this stage, basically we have to ensure that every project must have an approved business case. Now, business case, just like you know it is why the project is being undertaken. We need to know. Yeah, and then we also go ahead to prepare project briefs so that we can derive the finances that are required for the project to run. And then finally get approval of the project management team. So in this process, we also have what we call financial strategy and financial committee that is responsible for sieving these projects, so that we have just what we can do. So that is the first stage of the process. Then once the projects have been sieved out, say we have 4 projects that have been approved, they'll get funding. And once they get funding, we swing into the normal, what we call the initiation stage, where we come up with robust documentation. For initiating the projects, we must have a solid foundation for our project. So we go ahead and prepare approved project initiation documentation, the PIDs, to ensure that the projects are planned. We know what the scoping is, the milestones are set, the teams are set, the roles have been communicated, and everyone understands their role on the project, so that there is no project that starts without the proper documentation. So that's the initiation stage. Now, in the implementation stage, basically projects are running. They have swung into procurement. Procurement activities have started. Bid documents are being issued. They are getting the vendors, contracts are being signed. If it's an IT system, if it's an IT systems, they are setting up, configuring, doing test runs based on what the output of the project is supposed to be. So in this implementation stage, there is a lot of support that we offer, because this is the project running, risk management support, milestones have to be monitored, which ones are being achieved, which ones are being missed, and if they're being missed, are exception reports being written? Is the project board being involved in directing the project to ensure that the final benefits are achieved? So this is very detailed, and it goes on because the PMO is supporting projects from various departments. So you have so many projects running at the same time, different project managers, and we are supporting them. So that is the implementation stage. We also do health checks. You have to go projects by projects and check, are they doing as per what was agreed? Are they complying? Do they have risk registers? Do they have quality registers? Are the project steering committees or project boards meeting? Are there minutes for the meetings? To ensure that they are doing. And because the PMO is a facilitating model, we try to provide support. We are the good cop, bad cop principle. So the PMO is supposed to be the good cop. You work with the people to ensure that their work is easier, it is seamless. So the PMO is the good cop during implementation, so that when audits come, you've worked with the teams to ensure that there are no reds. So that's about the implementation stage. Then once the implementation is done, we have the closure stage. Now, closure stage, every project comes to an end. So every project must close on a controlled foot. We must have a fixed point at which project products have to be handed over. So in there, we are also supporting to ensure we have end project reports, to ensure that acceptance criteria or records have been obtained, to ensure that the products have been handed over to the users and there is transition back to business as usual. So in this closure stage, it's very important because now the project is wrapping up, to ensure that everything that we set out to do has been achieved, to ensure that the management of the project, especially the project board, projects, signs off products and hands off the project seamlessly, and also and also sends a project closure notification that the project has ended, so that the entire organization knows that this project is done, even the teams are disbanded, so that everyone knows project delivered. So this is what we try to support the projects to control the closure status, to control the closure, because we don't want to just abandon projects and there is no evidence projects close. So this gives us a controlled foot on closure. And once they close, they hand to us the electronic blue file or the project file to be kept in the central repository that I talked about in the objective. So we keep assembling all the closed project files for future reference.
So what were some of the challenges you experienced in the raft of projects you were working on? What were some of the challenges?
So the major challenge, like any organization would face, is dealing with the cultural changes. If an organization does not have a project management methodology, it's a new culture to introduce something new. So when we introduced Prince2 as the project management methodology, you are disturbing the status quo. People are not used to managing their projects using Prince2. So it is a change. And there will be some form of resistance, and you have to manage that change. So this was a challenge and is still a challenge, but of course, baby steps, because it is what we call the incremental change. It wasn't like we have to implement it in 3 months. It is incremental. Every project that are being rolled out, the new ones start adopting the new methodology, Prince2. Those that had no methodology, those were allowed to continue until they close. And then everything that was coming on board new was supposed to use Prince2. So it has been incremental. And of course, there are some pockets of resistance still there, but we are managing them. And I'm very positive that this challenge will soon be resolved, but it was a challenge at the start. Now, the other challenge also was to ensure that Prince2 budget was available for the various activities, because if management or the board has resolved that we should go Prince2, then there should be a budget to ensure that these activities are funded, that especially the trainings are funded. We have the manuals, we have the resources. So at the start, that was a challenge, but thankfully, because the bank runs with a strategic plan, they clearly mentioned that project management is one of the key areas that has to be given due attention in the next 5 years. So the funding was released and it was available. So then the trainings were being done very regularly. Every year, trainings being conducted. So the number of people that are Prince2 literate are increasing. The project management teams now, the number of people literate in Prince2 is increasing because of availability of the budget. Now, the other challenge was ensuring the organization complied with the project documentation, because when you're telling people to use a formal project management methodology, you will need to have documentation as evidence that things are being done. Let me cite an example of risk management. Yeah, if I come to your project and are you managing the risks on your project? Automatically, the project manager will say, yes, I am managing. But I have to go ahead and ask, can you demonstrate that you are managing risks? Because verbally saying you're managing is not enough. Demonstration is achieved by you showing me a certain document. And that's the risk management strategy or risk register. You show me your risk register, I should be able to see the list of risks that you identified, how you are managing them, who the owners are. So documentation use was a challenge. So what we did is to ensure that we developed templates so that it is not looked as laborious or a tiresome process to develop documents from scratch. So the documents are now available on the intranet. So the project managers will just go on the intranet and pick the document and then populate it accordingly, which was making it much easier. But it was a challenge at the start before we developed the templates. So I think those are some of the challenges. And also maybe I can say project managers also we have sometimes project managers that are full-time on the project and sometimes they are not full-time. So they are pulled by their business as usual activities. Yeah, so it's important. We struggled there because project management was a new role. Yeah, so people balancing between their project management role and the business as usual was always a challenge. So business as usual would always pull the project managers away from their role as project manager. So that was a challenge. But with time, that has been looked at because now project management roles have been put as part of the appraisal scorecard to ensure that the project management roles are scored, because like any human being, what is measured gets done. What is not measured doesn't get done. So it was important that we placed the project management roles on the individual scorecards so that individuals are scored on how they are doing their project management role. So that helped us deal with that challenge. But in the beginning, it was a challenge. Thank you, Alan.
What I love is the way the objectives where the project management was built into the strategic objectives of the organization. That's hugely powerful. And also the focus you have on the close down and the initiation of the projects. And these are both critical areas which if they're not done properly, then it can lead to subsequent project failure. So it's really powerful messaging, Esther, coming from the case study itself. Regarding project boards, and this is a very interesting part in the case study as well. How were project boards, their efficiency, how was that improved?
Of course, the project boards were originally they were not there. Yeah. So now it was we were asking ourselves how our project's going to be directed. We needed senior management to be part of the projects because we very well know that project boards are responsible for authorizations and making decisions on the project. So if the decisions are not being made, then there is an issue. If authorizations are taking long, then there is an issue. So it was important for every project to have senior management. And so in the bank, project boards are constituted for every project. In fact, that is one criteria that if you did a health check, you will get 100% compliance on that project board constitutions or composition. Every project has a project board. We call them project steering committees. Issue of tailoring. We didn't want to use project board because, in corporate governance, we already have the board of directors. So we didn't want to use the word board because it was going to bring about confusion. So we adopted what we call the project steering committees. But in the Prince2 terminology, those are the project boards. So every project has a project board that is made up of executive directors and directors, because one of the principles is for the project boards is they should have people who have clout, people who are going to move things, people who are going to make authority, people who are credible, so that we have, and also to make it more authoritative. Those project boards are appointed by the deputy governor of the central bank. So on top of their day-to-day, they receive official appointment as project board members for the various projects. So that increases the level of accountability because of where the appointment is coming from. So all projects have project boards. We also have SOPs for the project boards, describing their role for every project board member, because you may be on the project board as a user, a senior user, or a senior supplier, and an executive, different roles. So in the SOP, all those roles are defined clearly, who is doing what on the project board. And also we go ahead to define the frequency of meetings as a checker, to check, because you don't want to have project boards and they are not meeting, because they only make their decisions through project board meetings. So they are expected, according to the SOP, to meet at least once every quarter. They are processes which take long in public institutions like a central bank, like the procurement takes really long. So when you start, they want procurement will be slow, and you have about 6 months, and the outlook has not changed. Bids are still being evaluated. You're on that activity for a long time, but still the project boards have to meet so that they are kept informed on what is happening on the projects. So that frequency of meeting at least once a quarter has worked very well, and they meet. So how do we demonstrate as a PM, or how do we know that they are meeting? We ask for the project board minutes. So you go to a project and ask them, please share your project board minutes, and you're able to flick through the issues that came up, the decisions that were made, and to basically gauge the progress of a project. So all projects have project boards, and they are working very well.
And Esther, just to confirm, some of the project board members actually did the certification as well, Prince2. Is that correct? Yes.
And wow. That has been one of the, what can I call, our success, one of the successes, because we agreed that for project board, because they are just directing, they should only receive foundation certification. So you will find that 80% of the project boards are now certified at the foundation level. So at least they know their role, they know what to expect from the project managers, they know the various reports that should be flying to them, they know what to do, and they are certified at foundation level.
And these people are senior within the central bank, aren't they? They're senior, as you said, they've got seniority, therefore they can make decisions. So how did you get them to do foundation level? Because in the UK, with project boards, there's a lot of resistance about doing exams in case they fail the exams. So how did you get these senior members of the bank to do the exams themselves? How did you do it?
Of course, the issue, I think it is the same thing even here in Uganda. Yeah, these senior guys are normally very busy. So you just have to come up with a tactic on how to persuade them to do the foundation. Of course, if you do it normally, they'll push back. They'll say they are busy. They'll say this. They'll try to elude the exam, because once you mention an exam, it just sends chills down people's spines. Yeah. So what we did is to work with the executive director administration, who is responsible for all the staff, to ensure that the communication to do the exam comes from a higher authority, not from the PMO. Yeah. So when it comes from the deputy governor, or it comes from the executive director administration, then it is more of a directive or an instruction, because yeah, it has come from somebody still very senior, just like them. So then they will comply. But as the PMO that is facilitating the training, of course, you have to be flexible to see what timing of the training, when it should be, so that they are able to do the exam. And also we give them some more time. Normally the classes will begin with a pre-course introduction, and we give them 1 month to read their manuals. Yeah. And then we put them in groups. Yeah. So we give them 1 month of private study. They have the manual, they can read it at their own time. And then now you do a face-to-face, which is a 3-day, where you have the trainer taking them through, but they would have had their manual for the last 4 weeks. So it is a crash program, but there is some adequate time for them to read. And so that has worked very well. And that's how we've managed to have them certified.
I have to say, Esther, I'm very, very interested in that. And that's something that me and you might explore a bit further, because when the organisations that I've sort of been involved with in the past and currently, there's always this problem about project boards. And as a result of that, within AXELOS, we've actually, and I'll endeavour to get your copy sent to you, we've actually focused on project boards, the essential guide. It's a guide for project boards. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'll try and and but you still can't get them to do the exam, because it's this, as you say, fear that if I fail the exam, I lose my job, I lose face, etc. But it's so important, as you said, that they understand it's a decision-making forum, and how quickly they make the decisions affects the projects. It is fantastic. And when I read it in the case study, I thought that is fabulous. That is so important to do that. So when you looked at the program, what were the main lessons that were learned? Because we mentioned before closing the projects, initiation, the link between the two, but what important lessons were learned in the case study?
Yeah, of course, the key lesson is senior management That is very key, because with the central bank, it is not a flat hierarchy. It is not an egalitarian organization. Okay, it's not flat. It is very hierarchical. Yeah. Yep. So you have officers at the bottom level, middle, and so the hierarchy keeps growing. So there is a lot of authority at the high levels. So, and that's where we have the senior management. So if you want any initiative to be pushed down and implemented, it is very important that you involve the senior management, because it is the senior management that have to decide that the entire organization should go the Prince2 way. It is the senior management that is responsible for providing or approving a budget for all Prince2 activities. It is the senior management that is responsible for persuading their teams, whom they appraise, to ensure that they comply with the project management standards that have been released. So senior management has a very pivotal role in any implementation, in any initiative. So it is a key takeaway. You must involve senior management. In some organizations, or all organizations, you will have resistance. You have pockets of resistance, but you have to identify your champions, because even in senior management, there will be champions. There will be those who are very enthusiastic about the change, the initiative, and there will be those who may be resistant. So you have to use the champions to win over those who are resisting and ensure that you have all of them. Because once you form a critical mass of senior management, then the few who are resisting will have no choice but to join the bandwagon. So it is very important for you to involve senior management, because you can't elude them for any success. Because it is projects, they need funding, they have to be directed, decisions have to be made. Senior management is very key. So that is one of the lessons. Then the other lesson is efficiency from project managers can be best achieved when PMs are working on a full-time basis on the project and not part-time, balancing project work with business as usual activities. Yeah. Have full-time project managers. If you have a project manager that is still doing business as usual, because some projects are very complex and they need the whole of that person. They are full-time work. So if somebody is being drained again by business as usual, the project management activities are going to delay because they are not being given priority. So activities are taking long, there is scope creep, there is quality failure here and there, because no one, remember the PM is the eye, even the project boards are not full-time, the PM is the full-time guy, running the show. So for those very complex projects, it is important to have full-time. Or because also projects have cycles, there is when activities are peak and there is when activities are low. So you can also toggle. During the peak, you relieve the PM of the other business as usual and they concentrate. During the low peak of the project, they can still balance and do some business as usual as well as project work. But full-time project managers is very key. Taking an example in the UN, United Nations United Nations Office for Project Service, where I also worked, there the project managers are full-time. You're employed as a project manager, so your role is to manage the project. So it doesn't matter whose toes you step on. The monkey is on your back. That is why you are being paid to manage the project full-time. Mm-hmm. But of course, in the bank, it was a bit different. So this is another takeaway. If possible, project managers should be full-time for efficiency and effectiveness. Then continuous awareness must be conducted by the PMOs through the project management teams to facilitate compliance and continuous improvement. Yeah, because human beings forget. Yeah, we need to be reminded. We need to be refreshed all the time. We need somebody to remind us to comply. So it is important for the project management offices, for the PMOs, to be in charge of knowledge management, improving the people, knowing that they understand the project management practices, assessing where the black spots are in the project management cycle, and then reinforcing them with trainings. Yeah, you don't just have to train for Prince2 for certification. You can just pick topics where you are struggling. You realize risk management is very, sloppy now. Yeah, then you say, let me have a training on risk management, on maybe issue management, on maybe project closure. So you pick sections and reinforce them. Yeah. On certain processes like controlling a stage. So that training has to be continuous. And of course, lessons learned, lessons management. Because if lessons are being learned, most organizations maybe struggle with this issue of lessons learned. Because what is a lesson learned? If a lesson is just recorded and never applied, it is what we call a lesson recorded. Yes, it's until it is learned. Yeah, it's until it is learned that we call it a lesson. It's until it is applied. That's when we call it a lessons learned. If you just record lessons and never draw them out to be applied, then you're just recording. So the PMO has to be cognizant of that difference and push to ensure that those lessons are not remaining just in the records, in the logs. They have to be shared because different lessons may be for different departments. It might be an issue of how we handle procurement. Share it with the procurement department. It might be an issue on how we deal with contractors, certain contractors. Yeah, it might be an issue on how we deal with recording of risks. So you have to push out those lessons. Sometimes those lessons are for the project management teams, but sometimes they are lessons that are worth sharing with the entire organization. So the PMO has to be very alert so that we leverage from what they call economies of repetitions. Because if you do things several times, yeah, you're supposed to improve. Yeah, you're supposed to have that continuous improvement because you can avoid a certain mistake because it's a lesson that was on another project, not on yours. You don't wait for things to experience on just your projects. You may draw them from another project. You're like, oh, this was a risk on that project. How do I avoid it? And then we are working smarter. Yeah, so lessons are very important for lesson management is very important as a lesson learned in this journey we've had as the bank.
And what it does is it attempts to make the job that much easier by working on lessons learned. For experienced project managers, they need to give that message to the younger project managers. You need to do it. And like the bank here at AXELOS, when we're doing projects, it's a mandatory first activity that you've got to look at the lessons learned register and see how applicable. Some people say, I don't use it because every project's unique. My answer to that is every project can be unique, but it's very similar to something that's been done before. So there is a similar type project there. So at AXELOS, what we do is the project managers have got to look at previous lessons and enhance that in the way they approach the project. And it's the best way of actually managing projects. It cuts down the uncertainty as well. So regarding the case study and the bank, what are the plans for the future? Because I think what you were saying towards the end of the case study, you're still rolling out Prince2 to other parts of the bank. So what are the plans for the future?
Of course, the immediate plan for the future is to expand the PMO to ensure that it has enough staff and authority to support all teams. Because right now it just started and it is growing. Yeah, but we realize that there will be need to expand it so that they can have a proper grip on the project management practices across the bank so that they can ably and adequately support all projects in the bank. Now, also, there is, we normally have a challenge whereby if you may get a project delivering a certain product, and then the product, you have issues on usability of, say, a system. Let me say IT. You have usability of the system. The speed of adoption is very low. So you realize that we need to expand the PMO to ensure that change management activities are also incorporated to ensure that the projects deliver the intended products and those products are used and the speed of adoption also increases because you've dealt with the people-to-people aspects. Because two things, project management is the technical aspect, but there is this people-to-people because also projects can be resisted. Mm-hmm. Yes. Whereby you have a project and no one is using it. So as the PMO, we need to expand, also sort out some of the change management activities that are being brought about by the project that we are delivering. Then also, of course, we are in an IT era, automation, automation of some processes. We would like to go there, like having online risk and issue registers that can be monitored. Yeah, I know they have various providers that provide for online risk registers and issue registers. I think we want to go in that direction because it is easier. Yeah, you don't have to run around, to run after people to fill in the Excel risk registers that we are using. But if it's automated, the PM will go into the risk register, punch in the risk, and treat it, or manage it, escalate it to the project executive just within the system. So we want to see more of that automation. Even there is acquiring enterprise resource platforms, whereby we should be able to see the project health on an ERP. You punch in all the information and you're able to see a project that is green, that is in red, that is in amber warning, that it may swing south or it is in problems, so that you have early warning indicators of problems, so that you're able to be more proactive than reactive. So future plans, those are some of the future plans that we are looking forward to implementing as we continue to mature as an organization implementing PRINCE2. And of course, we also aspire to have, is it called the 3 p.m. model?
Yeah,
the maturity model.
P3M3.
Yes. Yeah, the maturity model. Of course, we have not done the assessment yet, but we will have to assess our levels of maturity. Would we have defined processes now? Yeah. Are they repeatable? Yeah. So that we are able to at least push or shoot for a 4. Yeah, a level 4 of maturity. I know very few organizations have achieved level 4, but it's achievable. But that is what we aspire to be. Because right now, I think we may be at level 2, but we have to assess our levels of maturity. So that is also another future aspect or a future plan that we intend to roll out.
And as you increase your maturity, you actually enhance how efficient the bank and the organisation is, and basically it's a much better business organisation the way it runs. But that's something that I can take away and talk to my opposite number, and we can maybe get some maturity work done for you. But the best thing to do for that is to do the self-assessment online, to have a look at it first of all, to get an idea for where you are, and then we can support you without a doubt, without getting maturity done. And I'll reach out to you about that, because I think what you've achieved at the bank, it's in essence is what we would call it's adoption of a centralized approach to improve your business efficiency. And when I read the case study, I just thought, that's how you do it. This is how you take Prince2 into an organization to improve your project maturity, to improve your efficiency. And it was light bulb moment. So regarding the case study, what were the main conclusions from the case study itself?
Thank you. Now it is 3 years since the PMO was set up, and it is now running. Yeah, we have achieved a lot during this time. There's even been positive feedback from senior management about the importance of having streamlined method of project management. It is acknowledged in the various senior management meetings that we have now an improved project management approach that is being rolled out, that is working in the bank, because we have moved away, in the 3 years, you will not find a project in the bank. If there is any project that has started in the bank in the last 3 years, there is no project that does not have a business case. There is no project that does not have a PID. There is no project that does not have risk or issue registers or an end project report. The documentation is there for all those projects that have started and closed within the 3 years since the PMO was implemented. So there is improvement that is evident also in terms of the 6 aspects of project management. When you look at the scope, yeah, reduced scope creep, cost management, yeah, time management. We have a proper procedure for managing change on the project. So individuals will not trigger off changes and get them approved without some other people on the project knowing there is a formal change management procedure that is followed. Yeah, if your tolerances are being exceeded, especially for time and cost, then you have to write an exception report, take it to the project board, and then they will have to present it in what we call the Strategy and Finance Committee for approval. Yeah, even we have time. Sometimes we have projects where there is need for time extension, but no cost. So they are a time extension, but no cost extension. So they also have to go through formal approval. So those are that is very evident with right now in the bank that senior management acknowledges the improvement. Yeah, there is improved communication and stakeholder management. There are some projects that have various stakeholders. You had various departmental, they are multi-departmental, they will have a little from each department. And all those guys have to be put in one platform to ensure that everyone knows what is happening. They are communicated to at every stage. All stakeholders are consulted, yeah, and the minutes are in place, and everyone knows what is happening on the project. So that is also that we have achieved. And of course, for senior management, the project selection and criteria, project selection and prioritization criteria works for them so well because it provides that sieve, it provides that filter so that they commit resources on the most urgent aspects. So that also has really helped us. And of course, having now the trained project managers, most project management teams are now trained. 80% of every permutation or composition of the project management team, you find on average 80% are Prince2 literate, except maybe a few that have not been on previous projects and they're just newcomers, but also those we provide training and support more. So basically, the PMO, lastly, maybe I should say PMO should ensure that project management teams prioritize facilitating compliance, enabling continuous improvement, and therefore projects in the future are more likely to be successful.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Is there anything else you would like to add to the case study or your experiences using Prince2 at the bank? Is there anything else you would like to add to the to what you felt went well in the case study or what didn't go well?
Well, because maybe what I can add is that, okay, it's just maybe I should call it a wish list, because now we have change management as a new area that is really coming up. Yeah, and now with also the pandemic, you know, there is change all over us. Yeah.
Yes.
So change management is a very key aspect, and it is triggered by projects. Projects introduce change. Because projects are the ones that trigger off the change, we need to increase speed of adaptability, usage, yeah,
Yep.
and to ensure that projects deliver what is used. So maybe I don't know, it's a form of proposal that to the developers of the Prince2 manual, we need to address that aspect of change management, the people aspect, because the change management that is in the Prince2 manual is to do with the change on the project. You're still in the project environment, yeah?
Yes.
Changes that pop up on the project and are affecting the project product. But what about these changes? You have a project, you've completed an IT system, and your users are not using it. Yeah. So how do we come up with maybe a theme? Yeah. Or just within the change theme, because I know we already have a change theme in the Prince2. How about address the people to people change? Yeah. In the Prince2 theme, to ensure that our projects are used, to ensure that we reduce the level of resistance for the projects, to ensure that there is increased speed of adoption, especially for projects that are delivering a change in how people work, in how people, which is affecting people's maybe salaries, people's working, people's operations, because once a project affects those aspects of people, there will always be a form of resistance. People will want to go back to what they were using. But if it is an element that is covered in the Prince2, then it is easy to embed.
Yes.
Yeah. Because now with COVID, all COVID is changing how we do projects.
Yes.
Projects is changing how we meet. Now we are on MS Teams.
Yep.
Yeah. We have to teach our team members to adopt to these virtual meetings, because now as the PMO, we are supposed to now start conducting meetings, project meetings with MS Teams. So it is a change that has to be managed, because now it's still in a scenario where you can't have 20 people meeting in a small room to discuss project issues. We are not doing that, and it has really affected the progress of our projects. Yeah. So this is a conversation that should be running with the people who developed the manual, because I know we are in 2017. This is Prince2 2017, but the various version maybe could consider that addition of the people aspect, especially on some of these changes that affect the project. So that is one of my my addition to the case study. But of course, I would also like to thank AXELOS for the introduction of the my AXELOS, the CPD, yeah. So it has a value addition, because now we have access to a number of resources, yeah. These case studies are available, the templates are available once you're fully subscribed and you have your CPDs logged, so there is that support which has improved the Prince2 fraternity. Yeah, because as a trainer, then it is my responsibility to ensure that people have that AXELOS are logged into the My AXELOS, to ensure that there is continuous learning. People are writing white papers, people are sharing the communities of practice, the available templates, what is happening in the world. All that information is available on the My AXELOS. And so it keeps the people informed of what is happening, and they should be able to make informed decisions, because really we are in a knowledge era right now. You must know what is happening. The more information you have on project management, the better you'll be able to perform your day-to-day work. So I would like to applaud the team that is responsible for that, my AXELOS, and the subscription and all the publications. Yeah, I think that is my addition.
Yeah, I mean, as we come to the end of the conversation, what I would like particularly to say is a huge thank you for your time, and also the fantastic case study you produced, which shows how the Prince2 method can help organisations. And as I sort of said, it's so important, this case study, that it was always going to be the first video companion for the case study because it's so important. But as far as I'm concerned, Esther, and I hope you agree, this, as far as I'm concerned, will be the start of a good conversation going forward. Because I mean, you've got the experience and you've implemented it properly, and I'll basically look into looking at me getting some looking at P3M3 and giving you some contact and steer there. But thanking you for a fantastic case study, and it bodes well for 2021 for everybody when hopefully they can benefit from this, because what we're going to be faced with this year, and you sort of mentioned it very, very briefly, organizations, once we come out of COVID, and let's hope that is soon, then organizations will have to change very, very quickly. But they will have to change in the correct way, and not knee-jerk, as you said, incremental change with the senior management bought in. Absolutely fantastic. And all I can say is thank you for the case study, and thank you for your time today.